Have you ever stopped to consider how many of us have experienced the same moment, emotion, or event across all time? Now, I promise you, I'm not high.
At least not right now, but
think about taking that first step down the aisle at a wedding, spending a beautiful, sunny summer afternoon with your homies, or just reading a book that changed how you think. How many human beings across every single second of existence have had that exact same feeling? The singular human experience binds us, and in those times of joy and satisfaction, we are often reminded, sometimes in an instant, that life ain't all sunshine and rainbows. Trauma is described by the Oxford Languages as a noun, literally from the Greek word for wound, a deeply distressing or disturbing experience. Emotional shock following a stressful event or physical injury, which may be associated with physical shock and sometimes leads to long-term neurosis. Those feelings of losing someone close from an illness that we just don't understand, a withdrawing partner, or losing your job while the bills continue to pile up. Many of those moments feel unfair, unwarranted, and othering. But how many stories have you heard of the proverbial rose growing from the concrete? A community rallying around a family in need when the most awful, terrible event robs them of their happiness. As shitty as it may sound to say, we often feel closest to others through our shared trauma. How many of you guys have gone to a funeral with your family and been like having the best time and then realize, oh shit, I haven't seen these people since the last funeral? Misery may love company, but healing takes a village. In this essay, I look to further explore, through the lens of Rose Engine's 2022 video game Signalis, exactly how horror in gaming triggers our empathy and why that makes it oh so beautiful. And if you enjoyed this video, consider liking and subscribing to support the channel. Lots of awesome videos out and fantastic new videos to come. Spoilers will abound as this is a discussion, so if you're averse to that, I'd say probably bounce now. I just watched 1978's Invasion of the Body Snatchers for the first time, and holy shit, what a movie. As an early vehicle for undoubtedly Hollywood's most hunkish fella, no, not that guy. It is a depressing tale of humanity facing a crisis, could ultimately never win. To a non-horror fan, this may seem incredibly macabre, but victory was never the point of the film. Because even though this insidious and imperceptible disease will undoubtedly succeed, the moments of love, understanding, and solidarity teach us the primary emotion that all great horror elicits: empathy. The moment that Matthew holds Elizabeth in his arms, telling her he loves her as she has the life sucked out of her by the malignant plants. What movie might have been inspired by this? Only to be replaced by what is a shell of herself. The point is to remind us that even though our emotions often will only bring us grief, love may not, in fact, overcome every obstacle. Love is its own reward, despite all odds, and that it is ultimately better to feel pain and loss than to feel nothing at all. And the main thing that makes horror different than other genres of media is it is okay to have that dreary and unhappy ending. It's okay to face massive odds and lose. This ain't a superhero movie. Superman ain't coming to set fire to every tree with the buds on him with his laser eyes. There's no snapping people back from being written over by the alien creatures like a hard drive wiped by a virus, left blank and empty. It's all about the grace, the compassion with which you face the odds, and not about the outcome. Horror games have a capability that horror films will just always lack: player agency. You get to step into a character's literal boots. I guess in this case, stumps. As you get to play these characters and see their fear and struggle via gameplay, feel it as you recoil, wince, and scream alongside them. The decisions they, and you, end up making feel utterly more critical. Signalis is a striking game, and what the fuck, guys? Like, seriously, why am I the only person who's played this shit? From the moment that I hit go, I was enthralled by its atmosphere, sound and lighting, esoteric and cryptic storytelling, and evocative, mysterious features. This may not be a review, but I will say that if you long for that swerve of the PS1 survival horror classics, just go ahead and pick up a copy. I was transported all the way back to my old crib in Ohio, circa 1998, while playing this 2022 modern classic. It takes a fair bit from Silent Hill as far as the feel, but the game it reminded me the most of from an aesthetic and style perspective was 1998's Parasite Eve. Can't believe that game is 25 years old now. God. But of every game I've played this year for the channel, Signalis is my absolute favorite. It's genuinely terrifying and emotional and an absolute thrill to play. It's not perfect and it's not for everybody. If you don't want to drop off items constantly, backtrack a bunch, scratch your head over a few obtuse puzzles, deal with a finicky aiming reticle, or commit a map to memory, I'm not sure if this is gonna be for you. But if you're looking for a modern take on Silent Hill, Resident Evil, Parasite Eve, etc., all swirled up with HP Lovecraft and some flesh growths in a blender, I would say you owe it to yourself to pick up this masterpiece from the two-person German crew known as Rose Engine. I always end up playing games where it was made by one or two people for some reason. Anyway, let's get into the meat, that fleshy meat of Signalis. The story felt super cryptic and open to interpretation, so I won't claim my understanding is to be definitive. There are so many grand theories about this game, I suggest you seek them out after completing it. But as I understood it, you are a replica, think robot, named Elster, sent on a mission to scout for planets and/or other life forms with your commander, as well as a resonant being named Ariane. Eventually, in the time it takes to go from home towards your destination, roughly 3,000 cycles per the game, the pair fall in love. Sweet, sweet lesbian robot love. Unfortunately, your ship begins to deteriorate due to the long journey, leaking radiation into the cabin. Elster shields Ariane away in the cryo chamber, hoping to sustain her long enough to hit land and make it out alive. Elster dies and, well, that's when the weird things start to happen. It is alluded to that Ariane is a bioresonant being, which essentially means she can read minds, bend wills, and even control reality. Her powers distort time and space as she sleeps, leading to the dreary, time-looping events of the actual game. As Elster comes to in the ship's cabin, a bunch of mysterious and spooky shit happens as she descends into literal hell, seeking out her lover to fulfill a promise. The promise. And like a picture of a picture of a picture of a picture, it continues to distort and warp all over itself until you eventually find your ending. Regardless of the actual ending that you get, you will first face off with Falk, a bioresonant replica who oversees many within the Empire, and eventually Elster is mortally wounded at the precipice by her former commander Adler. As you reach the opportunity to fulfill the promise to Ariane, 3 different endings can occur due to your personal playstyle. I got the ending leave, which occurs when you heal immediately after getting hit, take a long time to complete the game, and spend a very long time in the flashback scene on the Penrose. The ending initially felt to me like Elster was running away from her grief and loss. Like at the end of it all, she just didn't have the power to overcome her fears of what may have become of her lover. Instead of seeking to deal with her trauma, she runs from it, ultimately leading to more loops that will see her continue more suffering. That's an allegory, people. She never got to see Ariane and thus ended up being truly alone, dying in the void. Now, interestingly, this ending shows the beauty of what this game is all about: interpretation and vantage. Because you can also oppositely interpret this. Elster finds peace with her impending demise, finally letting go of her grief and anguish over the loss of her lover. Even parts of the ending point to this: the removal of her armor on the beach, metaphorically and literally, a clear blue sky, and a piano tune that feels more uplifting than down. And because she changed the looping outcome, maybe she and everyone else was freed from this nightmarish reality. This could either be an ending of running away, or it could be an ending of acceptance. Now, regardless of the ending that you get on this playthrough, Elster's fate is already sealed. You will get fatally injured by Adler post the final fight, and the conclusions only reflect the player character's decisions, not some magical, happy ending. I'll leave the other 2 endings for you to learn about yourself. If you've played the game, let me know which ending you got the first time through and which one you actually felt is, quote unquote, the best. Interestingly, suppose you play through the game a second time and complete a few additional tasks. In that case, there is a secret 4th ending where Elster and Ariane get to dance together, finally free of the nightmare and once again united. Well, Mr. Zishin, that has to be the best ending, right? They get to be together forever. Well, my dear child, remember, Ariane is a bioresonant being. Whatever happens may not actually be happening. From my research and understanding, this might actually be the scariest ending, as it likely means the loop is never broken and the rest of the characters involved can also never be freed, left to exist in a descending hellscape until, well, potentially for eternity. There are many interpretations of the story's events, but the main goal of this video is to talk about the journey, not the destination. What would you do for the ones that you love? What does family, friendship, and the romantic partner in your life deserve if they called on you to pass through the most vile, twisted, and horrific passage to just have a chance at saving them? What would you give up? Your arm? Your torso? Your eye? As we play these games or watch these movies or indulge in these books, empathy is the emotion most strongly triggered. We see this struggle place ourselves in their shoes, and in that way, we feel their pain. Like when you see Isaac have visions of Nicole because of the marker's sway, you can almost place yourself into his fear and confusion and really feel for this man who then has to go deal with fucking necromorphs. Like, choose one. But seriously, Elster was willing to dive into the most Lovecraftian depths just for the opportunity to see your lover again. Because no matter the trauma we share, the experiences we face for those we care about, or the worst possible outcomes that torment us, love is worth hanging on for. Horror media is so profound at reminding us of this exact fact. The time loop aspect of the game felt like a reminder that living these moments many times in many different lives doesn't mean that it was never worth it, even if the outcome is not the most happy or the most gratifying from an outsider's perspective. Now, as I watched the game's end, I couldn't help but think of that moment in Body Snatchers where the profession of love led to an incredibly sterile outcome, with the future of humanity suggested by the moment the credit rolls. Whether Signalis' ending points to the end of everything or just the end of that moment, the humanity, the fight, and the empathy inspired by the events remind us that even if life ceases to exist, the ability to struggle is what makes us human. It's what makes us real. So as we squirm, writhe, and flail around with Elster, the game tells us everything it wants us to know. That empathy is beautiful, the fight is beautiful, and horror can be beautiful. And I swear to God, if I don't see a number next to other friends playing Signalis,
I'm gonna lose my shit.
like, share, subscribe, and keep watching. Oh, and tell me your favorite horror game of all time down in the comments below. Peace.